Happy New Year, everyone. On this episode of the Sacred Playgrounds podcast, Jake and I are sharing our annual New Year's resolutions for camp.
Hey there, camp supporters. A common question that team members at Sacred Playgrounds get is, how can we support your work? Here's 5 ways you can support Sacred Playgrounds. First, pray for us and for our clients. Second, share the email content, the social posts, and podcasts that you find helpful. Third, you could hire us or buy our products by heading to our website and checking out the camp store. Fourth, buy us a cup of coffee. Whole team loves a good cup of caribou coffee. Or fifth, buy us a virtual cup of coffee at ko-fi.com /Sacred Playgrounds. Thanks so much.
Welcome to the Sacred Playgrounds podcast. We're behind the mic and behind the research, turning insights into impact and numbers into North Stars for camping ministries and the intrepid leaders that serve them. Each episode blends thoughtful theology, compelling data, and actionable wisdom, all to help camps thrive today, tomorrow, and for years to come. I'm your host and producer, Jared Rendell, Director of Innovation and Communication for Sacred Playgrounds. Joining me is Director and Lead Researcher, Jake Sorensen, a PhD-level scholar, experienced ministry practitioner, and the founder of Sacred Playground. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode, the support button to help make these episodes happen, and connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Sacred Playgrounds, and always at sacredplaygrounds.com. Explore with us what God might have in store at your Sacred Playground. Welcome to the playground, everyone, and happy 2026. Happy New Year, Jake.
Happy New Year, Jared. 26. I can hardly believe it.
Here we are. Lots of... It's always interesting that, hey, let's, turn the page, leave 2025 behind. I feel like I've seen... every year, it's like, I didn't want that anyway. Okay, next year, get out of here. It's a decent reminder that things get hard every year sometimes.
Things get hard every year. Yeah, 2025. Yeah, I'm not super sad to see 2025 go. There were some challenges and some things that I'm ready to turn the page on and excited about things to come. But I've got a lot to be grateful for. We sat around New Year's Eve it was after the ball dropped. It was 11 o'clock when the ball dropped because we're in Central Time here. So we watched the ball drop in New York, and then we sat around with Anna's parents and my younger son, and we just said, because we were going to go to bed, and then we started talking about what we were grateful for. And that really opened things up and reminded me that even though it was a tough year in some ways, there were so many things to be grateful for in 2025. And being able to share that was really illuminating. So don't forget to remember and to share what you're grateful for, because that was a great exercise for me at midnight,
especially when things are hard. I had a conversation with my kiddo about that. About just one of them was, just something was kind of hard. Like, she's got a friend moving away, and that is an interesting thing that we should maybe capture for the year. That, like, our response to hard things that feels contrary, that is so healthy, is gratitude.
Absolutely.
All right. Speaking of New Year's resolutions, and that kind of way of thinking, we're going to share our Camp New Year's resolutions shortly. We're going to dive in. We're going to get right to them as soon as we do our quick camp question.
Quick camp question.
All right, Jake, we did this last year. So first we're going to do a check-in, and then we're going to ask the question on our own New Year's resolutions for the year. I know everyone is interested, especially in checking in on last year's, right? Because last year is when you launched the Jake Sorensen bird count.
We launched the bird count. That's absolutely right. It was my New Year's resolution last year, and I downloaded the Merlin app on New Year's Day last year, and my very first species that I saw on my morning run New Year's Day was a bald eagle. And my last
Oh,
species,
that was your first one? I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
remember that.
that was
I
my
love
first
that.
species. Yeah, it was very poetic and auspicious for a great year. So my challenge here is I actually saw my latest species on New Year's Day this year, but I think it still counts because it was morning, so it was technically still 1 year, but it was an evening grosbeak,
Count
which
it.
is a great way to sunset the year with an evening grosbeak. And so I
Oh,
was in northern Minnesota at my wife's parents' place and saw an and they're beautiful in the wintertime. So anyway, so that was species 110. And so 110
yeah.
bird
So
species.
you hit your goal
I
because
hit my
100
goal.
was your goal.
100 was my goal. And, like I was really into it in the first part of the year. And then, I kind of kept doing it, especially when I traveled, I was reminded of it. And so I did okay. 110 species. That feels pretty good. And if,
Well
if you want to
done.
get technical on me and say the evening grosbeak technically doesn't count, then it was 109. So still quite a few.
I can speak for all of our listeners when I say that it counts, Jake.
It counts. And it's
It
more
counts.
poetic to sunset the
110, so
year on the
uh-huh.
evening grosbeak,
I like it.
Start with the bald eagle, end with the evening grosbeak. So anyway, what was your resolution last year?
I wanted to get more paper pages in my head and my heart, and
Well,
I
that's
did
right.
okay.
You were gonna read
Yeah.
like 2 books.
We
That
had
was you like had a
I know,
really
right?
low
Again,
bar.
like I just signed off like another one of my daughters. Like she's supposed to read 2 chapter books a month. Done, no problem. Crushing me. I did okay. Yeah, I did okay. Kind of more than the last couple years, but I'm still unsatisfied with both the volume and like the regularity the system is still. Like I didn't get it right. I didn't get the system in place just in my world to do that. So
You got to either schedule time or, like me, when I get into a novel, I just like that's what I do. I just read the novel anytime that I have a spare few minutes. So I've got a novel right now that one of my kids got for me. It's a sci-fi novel called Children of Time. So I'm on like
interesting.
page 500 or something. It's a long one.
Well done. All right. So the actual official quick camp question this year is you're on. What's your New Year's resolution this year, Jake?
So this year, I'm hoping to redouble some efforts for my road races and my running. So I've been having some nagging injuries, especially with my Achilles. And but this year, I'm hopeful to get back into some really regular running and do a marathon again. I haven't done a marathon in like 3 years, and so I'm hoping to complete a marathon this year and to actually break my PR, my personal record in the half marathon. And so that is the main goal, and it's not an outlandish goal, but I'm not getting younger, and so it's gonna be a challenge to get under an hour and 40 minutes in the half marathon this year. But that's my goal, and so
I'm done.
it's gonna
You
take
got
some effort.
this.
Yep,
They're cheering. They're cheering right now. They believe in you. All of them.
All right, what's yours, Jared?
Okay, so this year it's a little abstract, but it's
Okay.
been just sinking the last week. So it's kind of a combination of a resolution and kind of a word or phrase of the year, which we've kind of done, which I've done from time to time. And so the idea, the word, and then what's behind it is the idea of creating space. That's the phrase that keeps sitting. Create space, and I want to do that, personally and work-wise in a handful of ways. Like we want to finish part of our basement and move a kid's bedroom down there. Like what's underneath that is creating some space for all of us. And I want to create some space in our family budget to make some choices and do some more things, take some more weekends to go away to work, wherever it is, and things like that. And then that is carrying over just kind of spiritually and mentally as well to create more open space. I have a big time tendency to fill every space of calendar, of head, of heart even. And so I want to create space this year.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that, Jared. I hope that let's check in regularly. This will be our check-in one this year, because we won't have a bird count to follow this year, but to be able to check in with you.
I might ask anyway.
How is it going with creating space?
Yeah, we'd love to hear yours. Wherever you're listening, in your comments on the socials, send us a message, whatever it might be. We're in this with you. So we'd love to hear your personal ones as we dive into sharing our camp ones. So thanks for that, Jake. All right, it's time. Here we go. We've got 5. We have 5 New Year's resolutions for camp this year. These are, again, based on a couple of things. They're based on the data, because that's a big part of what we do. And so we are listening to those numbers. This is a chance to turn those numbers into narratives, to turn the stats into stories. We say that's a big part of what we do. And so here's a chance to do that. So we've got 5. We've got 5 New Year's resolutions for 2026 for camp, for the camp industry, for camp and its leaders like you. So we'll go through them. Jake and I will go back and forth, and we will see where we get here, my friend. Are you ready?
I am ready for New Year's resolution. Number one. New Year's resolution number 1 is go beyond the net positive. Go beyond the net positive. So a net positive is something that we've demonstrated over and over in camp research, and my colleagues that are in camp research have done multiple studies. We at Sacred Playgrounds have done multiple studies. It's very clear, it's a slam dunk, in fact, that camp has a net positive impact on the participants and their supporting networks, on their families, on their churches, on their communities, their schools. Camp is a net positive. We want camp. We want more people to go to camp. We want more people to experience camp, because we know that it's a net good for society as a whole, and that campers grow in things like self-confidence, independence, leadership skills, kindness towards others, like all of these things that we value highly as a society. Campers show improvement in these things as a whole. But when we say that as a whole, what we're actually doing is we're taking averages. So we're taking like all of the campers that participated in a program, and we're doing a before and after. So that's kind of our methodology. We'll have 1,000 campers or 200 campers at a particular camp, and we'll measure where they are before they go to camp, measure where they are after they go to camp. We'll take those averages. We'll see that the average increased, and we'll say, yay, camp had a positive impact on self-confidence, on their belief in God, on faith relevance, these different things that we've talked about over and over and over again, and that you guys celebrate and you use to tell the camp story. I want you to keep using them to tell the camp story. And as a resolution this year, let's go beyond the net positive. Let's go beyond the positive on average, and let's focus in on making sure that individual subgroups of campers are also having positive experiences. Because one of the things that we've seen and we shared a few episodes ago on the Sacred Playgrounds podcast was about when the camp experience breaks down. And we know that for about 15% of the campers this past summer, and this is of like 5,000 plus campers that participated in the project, for about 15% of them, they had what we consider a deficient experience. And when they have these deficient experiences, they don't show growth, and they are very less likely. It's 20 times less likely to say that they had fun at camp, even, and more than 10 times less likely to say that they grew in their faith and things like that. And so it really matters what type of experience they have. Some of these things we can't control. We can't control, the situation that they're coming from and how homesick they get, things like that. But we can control our response to those things. We can control how we care for these individual campers, and not just saying, well, 8 out of 10 campers in my cabin had a great time, so that's good enough. We want to say, what about those other 2? What about these kids? How can we make sure that camp is a space for them as well? Because we don't just want to cater to the majority and say, well, these must not be camp kids. These must not be outdoor kids. These must not be God kids or church kids, right? They're all claimed and beloved as children of God, and we want to live into that by caring for them as individuals. And our counselors, of course, do this, but we need to equip our summer leaders, our cabin counselors, our support staff to do this on an individual level. Okay, so let's look at what are the types of campers that are not having as good of an experience. So we can see from some of our research that there's a difference, for example, between boys and girls at camp. And that female campers tend to have a more positive or report more positive experiences than male campers in a lot of our co-ed programs. We can say, what's behind this? And are there ways that we can improve some of these experiences or tweak the experience? And I know this is becoming a little more challenging as gender differentiation has become something that we hesitate to talk about sometimes, but there are clear differences among the genders. And so are there ways that we can tweak the experience for a group of male campers, for a group of female campers, for a group of non-binary campers, things like that? We already do that at some of our camps for non-binary kids. And so being able to dive into these experiences and make sure that we're not changing the experience at the expense of other folks, but that we're not just saying it's a net positive, so we're not going to change anything. We want to dive in deeper and make sure that there are experiences that cater to all needs of all of our campers that come. And that requires us to know who are the campers that are there. Where are they coming from? What are some of their needs? And how can we respond to these needs? So go beyond the net positive.
Yeah, that idea, like doing nothing, status quo, this isn't the kind of thing that just even stays flat, right? I mean, something that you get a ball on a flat plane, it doesn't move forward, right? We want to be moving forward. Or, I mean, the actual reality is if we don't pay attention, that's actually likely a bit of a downhill slope where if we do nothing, if we just say, change nothing, pay attention to, nothing, rinse and repeat only. We talked last year about this idea of a noticeably improved product, and that kind of speaks to that a little bit, like to do something on purpose that, again, they'll notice that then makes a difference. And so to keep having that, what can we do maybe even a little better, keeps us from having this downhill slope. Yeah.
And I think sometimes we just we stay with the status quo because we say, well, most campers like this.
To your point, right? Exactly. Yep. That's a net positive. We're good. Yeah.
Yep. It's a net positive. Or we don't want to change this because so many people like this tradition. And a lot of times that's some of the sacred cows or the pranks.
We've talked that sacred cow conversation and things like that.
And so that's great that your returning campers love that. What about your new campers? Are they being welcomed to that space? So thinking about these different groups is super important. So go beyond the net
There's
positive.
Number one. Go beyond the net positive. New Year's resolution for camp number 2. Connect and reconnect with your local communities. Connect and reconnect with your local communities. So we continue to hear, we heard it again this last year, that camps are trying to figure out these, and some of it is this idea of like sourcing campers, but like where are these campers going to come from, right? And we saw again in the from the OMC director survey and the threat assessments that we do as part of that things like camper numbers and church engagement were in the top 3 for the overall and most of the different associations that filled out the survey, right? So those were a couple of things that are in the top 3, and in the comments and just what we hear from directors, the idea of like, hey, campers aren't coming from the same places as before. All right, so we're on the same page. We know that and we get that. We have more than once talked about, okay, so that doesn't mean lean out of church partnerships. The opposite, in fact, right? That doesn't mean lean away, silo. The opposite, in fact. And specifically now, I'm going to this idea of like your local communities, these small towns, big cities, whatever it is, where these folks are coming from. They are part of multiple layers of communities. They're part of their family. They're part of their school groups, their church groups, their things like that. And they're part of this local community. And across decades, even camps that are thriving are often embedded and highly connected with their local communities, their local towns, and their leaders are connected there and they're known and they have some presence. It is part of some of the answer to what about the places that these campers might come from. The idea that you are embedded and connected in your local communities can make an impact, can make a positive impact on that. That just churches that are only part of your denomination have to be your main source. I think we all get and know that that's not necessarily true, and has a positive opportunity for impact in a bunch of ways of cross-denominational connection. And the reality that church attendance isn't growing, right? And so the idea that you could be a place where these folks come to, even if they're not embedded in those other communities, that takes your connectedness, that takes you being part of those communities. So if you've got a chance to coach something, camp leader, right? If you've got a chance to be part of a community event in a couple of the local towns where a lot of your constituents might come from, right? Know where they are, know where they're coming from, check your maps and say, hey, we got a lot of campers from here. I wonder if I can connect with local government leadership, with local school leadership, with things like that. Build those relationships, connect and be embedded in those local communities has a multiple layers of positive impact. Yeah, camper numbers might be one of them, but a lot of opportunity to source those things, but both make an impact. We talked last year about contributing to society a bit, and so there might be some interesting ways that you've already been doing that. That's part of it, is this locale. You are part of a community leader, and your camp is. So be part of it. Keep embedding yourself. Connect with those local communities. And if they're broken, consider what might reconnect them.
I love it. Yeah. You want to be known as a good community partner. Like, you want your community leaders, your local village leaders, assembly persons, mayors, all those folks to think about you as a trusted community partner and as a potential venue for events and things like that, but also for some of these organizations that have deep pockets for a place to contribute to. Like, this is something that does good in our community. This camp does good in our community, and we want to give a gift and things like that. And so having those connections is super important, and it helps you fulfill your mission as well. And so you want to be seen as a trusted partner. And I know that a lot of you are doing great things. I've talked with a lot of you who are really doing a good job embedding yourselves in your local community. So talk to each other about different ways you can do that, and different ideas that camps have. And a couple that Jared already mentioned is, like, host community events. Like, can you have community events at your site? Absolutely. Why not? You should be seen as a venue. Make sure you're getting out in the community. Make sure that you're participating in some of these civically minded organizations so that you're seen as a local partner. And so these are all great ways to do that. Jared, I love this one. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's 2. Connect and reconnect with your local community.
Number 3, New Year's resolution is get dirty. Get dirty, friends. I want you to reconnect with nature, and I want you to empower your young people to dive into it. And I know that a lot of you are doing a great job with this, but to redouble your efforts, to re-emphasize the connection with nature, this is something that parents recognize is really important for their kids, and they want them to have this. Partner organizations and people that want to support camp recognize that this is something that kids need. They recognize, as Richard Louv has alluded to and talked about, that kids have a nature deficit disorder. When they're not embedded in nature, then there are all these other things that come cascading in with social challenges and with mental health challenges. And a lot of these things are associated with our disassociation from the natural world. So reconnecting with the natural world, making sure that your programs are embedded intentionally into your natural environment and your natural surroundings. Know what ecosystems you have and study those things. Make sure there's an opportunity for your campers to be there. Employ a naturalist on site to help kids identify the local flora and fauna, to do studies of the different ecosystems so that they can really dive in and develop a love for nature. Embed that into all of your programs. So yes, have a naturalist. I really encourage you to have a specialist on your summer staff, maybe on your full-time staff. Some of you do, who specializes in environmental education or the natural world and does programs with the young people for that. Also embedded in your other programs, your games. How are your games making good use of the natural world that's around you? Are you intentionally embedding the young people into the natural environment, or is the game done like inside or on a paved surface? How can you use the natural world in everything that you do? Your games, your activities, your small group times, your Bible studies. Is it embedded in your Bible study curriculum that you're going to use something from the natural world to illuminate the scripture passage? Because a lot of the scripture passages that we use are intentionally set in the natural world and don't make sense if they're not done outside. And so you're an outdoor ministry, use the outdoors. Embed yourselves in nature and really encourage a love for the outdoors with your young people, with your campers. And so this starts with your summer staff. Making sure your summer staff are aware of the ecosystems that are around you, so that even when it's not an intentional program that the kids are doing, the summer staff might be walking with their campers past a certain place on camp and say, I really wanted to tell you about this because this is this unique ecosystem. So maybe it's a marsh or a swampland that you have. And you can talk about some of the unique grasses and the unique animals that live in the swamps on your particular site. At one of the camps I worked at was along the Mississippi River, and we had what's called a goat's prairie. It's this very fascinating ecosystem that's pretty unique to that area of the country. And so being able to talk about that and why it's important and how it's been lost over the years, and what your camp is doing conservation wise to bring those things back. So really emphasize these things with the young people. It can be so beneficial, and when you do it intentionally, it gets the kids more interested in participating in outdoor activities after camp. And that's what we want. We want them to put down their devices, get outside with other people, get curious about the natural world, be encountering God through the natural world. One of the things that we see most consistently in terms of growth from the first day of camp to the last day of camp is agreement with being in nature helps me feel closer to God. At almost all the camps we study, campers increase in their agreement with that statement. We also see post-camp an interest in participating in the natural world as well.
So the value of, like, I'm thinking about this as a parent, the value of normalizing that for today's kids is so huge. You know what I mean? Like when I say that word, normalizing that, we have gone, because we believe that this is like creational, right? I mean, like this idea of connectedness to nature and the outdoors is a creational thing, and it's become the opposite. It's become denormalized, right? It's become, and so to normalize that, this is life, right? This is life is something that has such huge value.
It has such huge value, and it's an increasing value, as you alluded to just now, Jared. It's an increasing value of our camps because of our increasing separation from the natural world, because of everything's mediated through technology, and we've got so many indoor spaces where things are temperature controlled and things like that. We spend less and less time outside. And so we still need, as human beings created in the image of God, as part of God's creation, we still need connection to the outdoor world and the natural world. And that's one of the most important things that camp can offer right now. It's a big selling point. So emphasize this.
Your language, your marketing.
Re-emphasize it, get dirty, and make sure that your programs follow suit as well. And so
let's give them a tool to do that. This will be our stat of the week.
Stat of the week.
All right. Our stat of the week this week is 74%. 74% of campers agreed with the statement, I want to spend more time in nature since returning from camp. And so this is from our post-camp survey. These are the ones that just came in the past couple of months. We had over 500 campers respond to the post-camp survey this summer, and about 3/4 of them, 74%, agreed with the statement, I want to spend more time in nature since returning from camp. And so we can see that there's this positive impact from the camp experience in general. Now, the camps that emphasize nature more see a higher percentage of campers saying that they want to spend more time in nature since returning from camp. So what you do and how you program it actually matters, because I want to see that number up to 90%. Right. And we can do that through intentional programming.
Thanks, Jake. All right, quick recap. We are 3 in. Number 1, go beyond a net positive. Number 2, connect and reconnect with your local community. Number 3, get dirty. Here's number 4. Resolution number 4 for camp in 2026 is upgrade your self-assessment spirit and system. Upgrade your self-assessment spirit and system. I've been thinking a lot about this. One of my favorite things that we got to watch happen this year was when we were at the Great Gathering, and we did this. Like, we handed out these based on the 5 fundamental self-assessment. We'll link that quick. Based on that, but watching them take that and then go put it up on the board, and just watching their wheels turn, watching this intentional, just little moment of reflection was really valuable. And we had built this self-assessment tool. Had me thinking about this. This idea, not just, I mean, like I said, spirit and system. This way of thinking, way of being, and being able to put that into practice. So I'm really thinking about both of these things. So kind of from this spirit, this way of being standpoint, to be a person and a team, right? So you individually and for sake of your team, to have this self-assessment be part of your being, to be part of how you think, regularly asking yourself questions, right? That's really at the heart of this idea of self-assessment, is regularly asking yourself questions about your own leadership, about your own ministry, about your own life. To be a person who regularly asks themselves questions is really valuable, really kind of mature from a spirituality standpoint. And so to be a person who thinks in self-assessment, not just next task, next task, next task. Everything has a before, during, and after. We talk about this, and we've got like this communications tool that we're giving to folks sometimes. And part of the heart of that is there's before, during, and after. And that's true for ourselves. Whatever this little thing is there's preparation for whatever this is. And then there's doing it. There's the execution. There's the experience itself. And to be a person who starts thinking about, how did that go? What was that like? Where am I? How do I feel now? What difference did that make for me? Is so valuable. So this idea of having a spirit of self-assessment, and then for you individually, and especially for your team, a system. So maybe it's as simple as, how is this going? Is always on your staff meeting agenda every week, right? You have a standing agenda, and you're going to fill it with all these other things, but you should have a standing agenda for your staff meetings, and devotion should be part of it, and evaluation should be part of it every time. And so you're always asking those reflective questions on purpose.
And you can tie that to your strategic plan or your strategic initiatives that you as a staff
absolutely should
have been assigned, or that you have adopted, and say, okay, we're going to focus on this one today, this goal, this action step. How are we doing? And making sure that you're always connecting it back to that strategic plan or those strategic initiatives. That's a great way to do a self-assessment. I love it, Jared. That's part of the system.
So lastly is like, actually build. This is worth the time, I promise, to build systems for that, right? So some of these goals that you're going to have, they've got numbers, they've got data, they've got, interventions and instances, and to track them. Hey, we're 3 out of 5 on this. And if you've got like a task management system, we're joining you in this one. Like, we have part of our own strategic initiatives is to do some more intentional evaluation and metric tracking. And so I've been spending some time over the last couple of months in our task management system, building in these tools for us to be able to actually track this. And that helps right? That helps that you've set that bar. So a spirit and system of self-assessment that's upgraded in 2026.
I love that. Redouble your efforts on that, and encourage others on your team to do that. So do it as a team, do it together. And I would say, as a corollary to this, don't forget about the importance of peer review. So having an outside perspective from a friend from another camp. This is what the ACA accreditation process really does well, is it provides an outside perspective and a peer review. So having that peer review is incredibly important. And to Jared's point here, having that self-assessment, really focusing in on that and saying, how are we doing here? So it's not some outside person necessarily that's saying, oh, you're doing poorly, or we're going to shut you down. It's not the health inspector. It's you saying, how are we doing towards these goals? And you can do that more systematically, and more intentionally and more regularly than just having an annual or semi-annual or whatever peer review. So awesome.
So that's the idea.
So that's number 4, upgrade your self-assessment. Our last one, number 5, for our New Year's resolutions in 2026, focus in on these parents. Focus on creating parent partnership. And I really want to emphasize this. So
you said that word on purpose.
I said parent partnership on purpose.
Partnership.
So we've been talking about parents, and I've realized this in some of our episodes. We talk about them as the primary constituent, and I think that's an okay way to think of that. Like, okay, this is your primary constituent. This is the person that you want to really focus on. But I really want to reframe that for this New Year's resolution, because we want to see them not just as constituents or customers. We want to see them as partners. We want to be partners in the ministry with them. And so we're not just running a business. We have to run a business, right? We have to balance our budget and all those sorts of things. And so thinking about customers and constituents can be valuable in that sense, but reframing it as well to think about it as ministry, and these are our partners. these are the people that were coming alongside to help them in their very difficult task of raising these young people to adulthood and beyond, and walking with them through this difficult path. That's the path of a parent. And it's a really challenging one. And there's ups and downs and sideways and everything else. And we are with them for a period of time during this journey. And sometimes we get the privilege of walking with these families for multiple years. And so we get to know these folks. We get to know their kids. We get to know multiple kids. The families come to family camp or retreats, and we really dive into these relationships with them. I want us to think about this as a little more holistically. We're partners with all of these parents. Everyone that entrusts their young person to us is a potential partner. And we want them to see us not just as a place that they're going to send their kids, but as a potential partner, as somebody who helps us along the way, who walks with us along the way. And I think the way that I think of this from a parent perspective, so because I'm a parent, I've sent my kids to camp and I've sent my kids to school and athletics and all these other things. And when I really feel like there's a partnership with a teacher or a coach or a music instructor, those have been the three primary places for my kids in their childhood.
Yeah,
we just had some great mentors come along that were, taught them piano or taught them choir or taught them band, but also coaches and some teachers. But as a parent, you've had connections with teachers where it really felt like a partnership, and you've had some experiences with teachers where you're like, man, I just don't feel like I'm being seen or heard or walked alongside. I feel like there's an adversarial relationship. Certainly we don't want the
or even just
relationship.
Here's the grades, right?
Yes.
Here's your grades. That'd be the transactional equivalent is, the grades come in, I look at grades,
Yeah, it's like a professor at a state school when they have a lecture hall full of kids. They're not as much of a partnership with them. They're a purveyor of knowledge, rather than when you have some of these smaller classes or these private schools, you get this deeper partnership. You really get to know people. And so we want the parents to feel like we are that person. We're the partner with them. We're the one that's going to be responsive to them. We're going to walk alongside them. And I want you to think about, how do those good teachers, those good coaches, those good music instructors cultivate that relationship? How did they make you feel? What did they send to you, right? A lot of it's communication, right? A lot of it's the way they're interacting with your kid and whether your kid likes that person or not, right? But also there's usually a personal connection. They're usually going out of their way. You can see that this person doesn't need to do this in order to get their paycheck. They're doing it because they care about my kid. They're going the extra mile or the extra step, even for some of them. It's just not that. It's just an extra step because they care about the kids, because they really genuinely care. They want your child to succeed. You see that. And so you end up having these great conversations with that person and seeing them as a partner. We want our camps to be seen as partners with these parents in the same way as a good coach, as a good teacher, as a good music instructor. So we do that by cultivating that relationship and that partnership before, during, and after camp. And so we see in our parent surveys, we've seen camps that do this really well, and we've seen camps that do this pretty poorly. And it has consequences for the parent perspective of the camp itself and their child's experience, and whether they're going to send them back again or not. And so helping the parent feel good about your processes, about how things are going, and that's things as simple as registration, but also, are you going the extra mile? Are you doing more than just sending them the information that they need, a packing list and things like that? Are you helping them through the experience with virtual tours and with some sort of in-person thing or a virtual thing where you can say, jump on a Zoom call and ask questions of the camp director, or here's a podcast that we do, here's introductions to counselors, all of these extra things that help them feel more prepared for sending their kid to camp, and more like it's not just I'm sending my kid for a week and that's all the experience. You want to walk with them for weeks and weeks before the experience and prep them and their child for the experience. And then during the experience, you want to keep communicating with them. We've talked about this before, that this parent communication is something that they want more and more when their child is at camp. Do that for them. Show them that you're a partner. And then continue the communication after their child returns home. Here's some tips about how you can bring some of the impacts that your child received at camp, bring those things home. We talked about getting dirty. Here's some ways that you can connect with your kid in the outdoors. Here's some of the things that they learned at camp. Here's some of the activities that you can do with them or places that you could go. Here's ways that you can dive into scripture together, prayers that you can do around the meal table, all these things that continue equipping them after they get home, because ultimately they don't want just their kid to just be gone for a week, right? They're sending them to your camp because they want them to become better human beings. And you and your camp help them do this. And so why don't you empower them and equip them so that they can see the impacts, they can understand the logic of what you're trying to do, and that they can see you as a partner in raising these young people to be good citizens and good members of their communities and their churches and the community of heaven here on earth.
Yeah, amen. Making it so clear that you're on the same team as them, that makes a big difference. Yeah, and so like I feel like we've seen, kind of an increase in intentionality with this. At least it is really helpful for me to like those analogies of a really good teacher or a really good coach, things like that are really helpful reframe for me, because even if we a lot of the the ideas or the tools, it's like some of that still just brings, here's another transaction, and it's a really helpful reframe to go, oh wait, this is what actual partnership looks like. Yes, from a tools and tasks perspective, but from an overall, this is who this person is, makes a big difference.
Awesome.
All right.
Oh, this was fun. That was 5.
That's 5, everybody. Here's the recap, right? We're gonna run through these. Number 1, go beyond a net positive. Resolution number 1, go beyond a net positive. Resolution number 2, connect and reconnect with your local communities. Number 3, get dirty. Number 4, upgrade your self-assessment. And 5, focus on parent partnership. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Jake.
Friends, I'd love to hear what your New Year's resolutions are for 2026. I'm excited about the year to come. I think it's going to be a great year for our summer camps, and we're going to see some upward trends in camper numbers and donations and things like that. Lean into the positive, right? Lean into the things that we do really well. And let's have an amazing 2026 in our camp and retreat ministries.
Amen. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Sacred Playgrounds podcast. Thanks for listening to the Sacred Playgrounds podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to catch every new episode. If this is helpful for you and your organization and your team, follow the link in the show notes to become a supporter of the podcast. Our theme music was written and performed by Weekend Picnic. Find their original songs anywhere you get your music, or visit them at weekendpicnicband.com. Sacred Playgrounds is generating insights, equipping leaders, and connecting partners to help camping ministries thrive. Learn more about what we've got going on, view current research projects, and connect with our team at sacredplaygrounds.com.